Hi guys, Jay Smith here, welcome to AskGolfNut channel and welcome to Tour Edge Exotic CB. I've also got the MB. I'll do that one after this video. It's their cavity back. I've done the Max already. Their Tour Edge Exotics Max is their full-on game improvement stroke super game improvement iron, very strong lofted and very tech inspired, works extremely well. Then they've got the CB and then they've got the MB. Now the MB is their full-on player's iron, the CB is their basically full-on player's iron with slightly different dimensions and a little bit more help in the way of the cavity at the back. But then they have the Max and they have this massive gulf in between. So whether we're going to see another launch from Tour Edge at one point, I don't know, to fill the void, but we have the CB in my hands. Tech-wise of this head, let's say it's slightly more tech inspired than the MB, but anytime when you have on the website talking about effectively the stuff it's made from, the 1025 that it's made from, the carbon steel it's made from, and then also the CNC milling of the face, the grooves, etc. When you're talking about that and then not really much about anything else, you can tell there's not much in the way they can do with something this small and looks as good as this does. You've got that channel in the back there, which is filled with black, it feels like TPU, a rubberized, well, that's going to do is feel, etc. But I mean, that's moving mass away from the face and then putting it a little bit low and further back. We have got a little bit more of a mass change in the CB over the MB. The MB is their blade and you can't really do much with a blade. Top lines, we have a slightly thicker top line than the MB, only a millimetre or so. So you can blend those two irons very, very well. Sole thickness is not the biggest sole in the world by any stretch of the imagination. And we're talking about blade lengths. It's marginally bigger than the MB, massively different to the Max, but that's kind of what this golf club is like for. When it comes to the offset, you go down by the golf ball and there is a fraction there, but it's not much whatsoever. And I think from the point of view of the specs between the MB and the CB, when it comes to offset, loft, etc., they are all basically identical. It's just that the fact that on the CB you have a slightly 1 millimetre thicker top line and a fractionally thicker sole, but within reason. That is about it. As you can see, I'm at a hole where we have water to go over, 160 or so yards away from the pin. If I don't hit this one very well, I will make myself look silly. 32 degrees of loft for a 7-iron, and I've got the lofts up on the screen, I'll show you what they are, but they are blending perfectly with the MB. Right, let's go give this one a hit. It does look lovely down by the golf ball. How does it feel? Not as the greatest of strikes in the world, slightly toey, maybe 1 mil high, but we are going to be hitting target just and going out the back. Club head speed 86.8 miles an hour, too much club path from the inside of 2.7 degrees and way too much face closure of 2.4. That gave me that little bit over jawy flight. 6 mil toe, 2 mil high, so 2 mil high, I can just feel it slightly high in the face, but very much so toe. You do get very good feedback from this. That's the great thing going into the player's side of things. You really do get a very, very good understanding where you miss it on the face. Of course, middle always feels lovely, but that's what you want from a player's iron, or more of a player's iron. You want that feedback, you want that understanding of where you're hitting it when you don't hit the middle. We are going 159 yards carry, 170 yards of total, 4 yards offline, which is not bad at all. 36 yards in the air and 49.3 degrees descent angle. Definitely stop on most greens. Again, that rolled out in the back slightly, but this pin is very much so at the back of the green, but then I don't mind because that means it's the furthest distance over the water. But feel-wise, yes, it does feel lovely. The 1025 carbon steel, very, very similar to what Mizuno make their forgings from, and we all know nothing feels like a Mizuno, and when it comes to this, very been similar in, I think it's Mizuno 1025E and this is 1025, but again, comment below if you know the difference between the standard 1025 and the E. Comment below. Go on, give it another go, see how it feels. Let's see if we can get it right out of the screws. Well, I've swapped for a very slight left for a very slight right, but it's definitely, pitched a little bit away from the hole, but good. Club head speed 86.8 miles an hour, fairly consistent. Club path 1.5 from the inside. This time the face wasn't going to get done by the overclosed. 1 degree open, so it's basically just a push. 2 millimeters heel, 3 millimeters low. Very good strikes. Feels really, really nice out of the middle, or very close to the middle. 155 yards of carry, 165 in total, 39 yards in the air. And 52 degrees descent angle, 51.5, we'll round it up. It's stopping really well, feels really good. I'm a great player's iron fan, and so anyone makes a nice looking player's iron, which is fairly slender and sleek, feels like this, I'm a fan straight away. I don't like anything which is massively cranked in loft. This is 32 degrees of loft. For a player's side of things, it is within reason about normal. The MB is the surprising one, because the MB, the full-on blade, is normally the weakest. That normally goes 34 degrees, and then this kind of sector goes 32. Player's distance goes 30, and then the game improvement ones go even stronger. But this being 32, of course the blade also being 32, allows you to blend. It'll be interesting. What we'll do at the second half of the video, I'll whack it all over the face. We'll get a properly good heat map understanding of how forgiving or how consistent this golf club is when you don't hit the middle. And we'll also test it at 70, 80 and 90 miles an hour. Different golfers swing at all different speeds. So it'll be interesting to see how well this does when you start taking some speed away. Right, let's go give it another hit. See if we can get close to the pin if possible. Doing okay so far. 1 on, 1 off. Oh, it's slightly toey, and that's down the left again. That's brave, stroke stupid. Oh, just off. Club head speed 88.1, fractions too fast. Now club path is good, 0.5 from the inside. Face is just slightly closed. That's why it's gone fractionally left, but I mean 2.7 yards is pretty darn decent. 4 millimeters toe, 0 below. I could feel that. I could feel that it wasn't middle, and I could feel it was slightly toey. It's one of the best irons I've ever tested for ultimate feedback, knowing exactly where you're hitting it on the face. 159 yards of carry, 169 yards total distance, offline by 2.7, which is good. 38 yards in the air and 50.6 degrees descent angle. And if White wasn't basically flying it to the back edge, absolutely that would have stopped. And of course, this green is fairly firm as well. I like this. I am going to give it another go. I don't think there's any point. I'm not really testing out how good the golf club is. I'm hitting in and around middle. It will be real fun to hit this from wacko parts. This is a player's cavity. It's not supposed to be forgiving, so it will be interesting to see if it actually is fairly consistent. Player's cavity irons, generally speaking, do okay. Just feels lovely out of the middle. That feels really quite close to middle, and it should be the closest yet. Oh, you bounced away again. Club head speed 87.7 miles an hour. Club path is good again, 0.3 from the inside, basically 0. Face was fractionally open, 1.3 degrees. That's why it went off to the right very, very slightly. 3 mil heel, 2 mil low, very close to middle. Does feel very, very nice from the middle. Carries 155 yards. Total distance 164, offline 5 yards, that is it. Peak height nearly 39 yards in the air and 51.4 degrees descent angle, working extremely well, like really very, very well. If you're a player who wants your bladed irons or very close to bladed irons, not super weak in loft, and you want them at 32 degrees or so, this is a prime choice for you to test. Right, let's go give this one a whack all over the face, not just in and around middle. Let's go put some extreme toes, some extreme low and heel in there as well. Let's go also test it at 70, 80 and 90 miles an hour. Let's go see how good the Tour Edge Exotics CB actually is. All the shots now hit with the Tour Edge Exotic CB iron. I've done the 3 different swing speeds. We'll do that in a sec, but you can see on the screen we have the heat map. How well does it do when you don't hit the middle? How much ball speed does it retain when you don't hit the middle? If you haven't seen these before, these are a face-on representation of what happens when you don't hit the middle and how many % of ball speed you lose from the middle out towards the toe, heel and low. So if you haven't seen this before, on the top, on the left-hand side, you've got -21. That is the toe side of things. On the right, 21 on the right-hand side, that's +21. That is the heel. You've got high and also low as well. And this is the size of the green blob. How big is that green blob? And this is a CB. This is a player's cavity sector irons. Remember, guys, when it comes to blades and players' irons, remember, they're not supposed to be forgiving. However, The biggest misconception that people have is the understanding of, let's say, players' distance irons, one of the biggest ones out there, that they think that the players' distance irons are really very, very forgiving and also very, very fast, the players' distance side of things. But what they actually give you is a players' distance iron is a very small iron, like a player wants to see, but because the face is really, really fast, it's very difficult in that small chassis to make the rest of it just as quick or just as consistent. The big difference though with a player's cavity is in a player's cavity, they're not interested in making the middle really, really fast. They are on a player's distance. So you don't have to do too much work on the outsides to make it a little bit quicker to get some very, very good consistent numbers. As you can see, that green blob is a half decent size. You can go all the way to, let's say, 3/4 of an inch off of the toe, -18. And at 0, you're losing around about 4 to 5% of your distance, your ball speed. So with a flat-faced iron, different to a curve-faced with a driver, hybrid and ferry wood, a flat-faced iron, ball speed and distance are very, very close to being correlative. So you're losing 5% of your ball speed, you're losing around about 5% of your distance. If you go over to the heel side, that same 18 millimeters off on the weird side, away from middle, you're losing 4%, which is even better than that of the toe. So this golf club, the CB, is slightly more forgiving off the heel than it is off the toe. And of course, if you have a look at the bottom left-hand side, we've got the overlay down there. You'll see that red strip. Don't hit that red strip. That red strip is around about 21, 22 millimeters away from the middle, and that is effectively the shank territory. If you are going to be hitting that far off, you're going to be interacting with the hosel, and you don't have to worry about how effective or how efficient the face is when you're going that far off, because you're going to be hitting it in that direction as it comes off the hosel. Low on the face is actually quite surprising on this golf club. It's really very, very good. You can go down to about 14, 15 millimeters low, and we're still well into the 3% of loss, which is very, very good. Not bad whatsoever from a golf club which people would perceive to be a fairly unforgiving golf club. Let's have a look at the radar chart now. All this information, the heat maps, the radar chart, and the 3 different swing speeds we'll have a look at in a sec, is all available on my website, www.askgolfnut.com, where we have 100 or so irons in the database currently, and silly season is upon us, so we'll be able to get all the 2026 ones in there as well. And effectively, if you are looking for a new set of irons, and you are interested to see how good the old stuff does compared to the new stuff coming as well, we've got 100 or so irons in there, and with all the new 2026 stuff coming in, you'll be able to see if the new stuff is actually any better than the old. But the great thing with the radar chart that you can see is the fact that we've got the toe, heel, low and forgiveness overall, but we've also got on the left hand side, we've got face speed, face spin rate and launch factor. So the left hand side of the radar chart is how a golf club fires, how it flies, and how the trajectory is going to look like. So when you're looking at the right hand side, that is forgiveness. Again, that is all compared against all the other ones that you can select. We'll have a look at the average in a sec. But on the left hand side, that is loft for loft adjusted. So if everything was, say, 30 degrees, and of course 7 irons range from 26 all the way to 34 degrees in loft, so quite some difference. But if they were all the same loft, let's say 30, how fast would the face be, how much spin would it create, and how well does it launch? But let's go have a look at the toe when we add the average of all the other players' cavity irons within the same sector as Exotic CB to see how well it does. So no different to the heat map that we saw a little bit earlier on. It's a little bit more forgiving off the heel than it is the toe. It's not quite as forgiving off the toe as the average that you would see there. The pink, we'll call it, is the Tour Exotics CB. And then the yellow is the player's cavity average of all the ones that we've got on the database. So it's a slightly worse off of the toe. Heel, it does slightly better. And of course, low on the face, it's doing slightly better as well. You can see this is a very, very good golf club when it comes to the averages. Bearing in mind on the database, there are quite some different golf clubs even within the players' cavity sector, and they range on consistency, or what people see as forgiveness. But if you go on average, it is within reason, very, very close to being as good as everything else on the database within the players' cavity sector. Face speed is slightly faster than that of the average, which is an interesting one. Generally speaking, it's quite difficult to make an iron fast out of the middle and then also fairly consistent or forgiving from other parts. The face spin rate is a measure of how much spin applies to the ball when everything is loft for loft adjusted, etc. And it's doing pretty well. It adds a little bit of spin. Now, of course, this side of things, different to the forgiveness side, is going to be for the player specific. Different golfers will require different things. Some golfers need as much face speed as possible and as much launch factor as possible, let's say, to try and get as much distance as possible because they don't swing very quick. Other golfers, they may want a completely different launch conditions from an iron and because of how they physically deliver themselves. So again, if you know how you deliver, you hit the golf ball to the moon and you want something that flights it a bit lower, you will want a lower launch factor. That's the kind of idea. That's a great idea with a database because it has everything written on there and you can select what irons will be best for you based on what your requirements are. And when it comes to launch factor, within reason, it's basically doing pretty darn okay. It's in between, it's in the average. It doesn't launch massively high, it doesn't launch massively low. It's basically along the average. So to the 3 different swing speeds now, where we get to see how well it does when you don't quite swing at tour speed. Now I've got the 70 mile an hour already set. If you haven't seen this before, this is from the Self-Fit tool on the gold tier of the website www.askgolfnut.com. This is a great tool because it's allowed the gold members to be able to compare all the flights of all the different irons in the database and see which ones work for them better or not. You can put all your own swing characteristics, which will change all of the flights, all of the distances, and also all of the gappings that you see on there. But on the top there you can see we've got club head speed already set to 70 miles an hour. We have the angle of attack set at -2. -2 of attack angle is how much you come down. Some golfers hit more down than others. Some golfers will hit fairly shallow, and of course some golfers even hit up at the golf ball. Remember, the golf ball is on the floor, so generally speaking it's not a good idea to hit up at the golf ball unless it's on the tee. Different video, different conversation. When it comes to shaft lean, that is D-loft. How much loft do you add or take away during delivery? These are sliders, remember, so you can change them. If you're someone who has a 30-degree lofted 7-iron, let's say, and you deliver 33 degrees of loft, then it's a slider. You can add and move the slider to suit it. No different is if you take 4 degrees off, you can also move the slider. It will also change the flights, it will also change the distances, and also change the gappings, and you can compare 2 irons together as well. But we do have the Tour Edge Exotic CB selected, already got 70 mile an hour now, and we also have the 7-iron selected. We're looking at carry max of 127 yards. Carry max is 127 yards of bang out of the middle. When you go carry average, that is effectively when you have a ½ inch miss around the face, toe, heel and low, what kind of distances are you expect to lose? Going back to the heat maps, etc. And we are losing around about 5 yards or so. Peak height is 22 yards in the air and descent angle is 42.5. Would I go to a 6-iron at 41.4? Probably not. Well, unless you are very, very good at hitting your 6-iron, you hit your 6-iron very, very well, or you deliver in a certain way to add a little bit in the more of the way of launch than you see here, because of the fact that 41.4 is fine. 40 degrees and more is the ideal numbers. Okay, 45 is the golden standard because that means it's going to go into any green and stop. But anything over 40 degrees effectively will stop on most greens. Anything under 40 degrees and you're in the lap of the gods if it's going to stop, or you have to be playing on a swamp or very soft greens for that golf ball to stop. So 41.4, as soon as you start miss-hitting your 6-iron very, very slightly, as you will do, shaft lengths get a bit longer, you get a bit further away from the work, and you have a propensity to miss-hit a little bit more. Doesn't take long for that ball speed to start coming off, the peak height starts coming off, and also the descent angle or control into a green. That 41.4 would then turn into 30 something, and then it's going to skip out the back. So again, you have to understand how you deliver. Different golfers will do different things, hence the sliders. You can set your own to see how well you do. If you go to 80 miles an hour, just add 10 mile an hour more club head speed and things change a little bit. You go carry now is 148 yards right out of the screws. You're losing again 5 yards or so from the nominal miss, and peak height is 29 yards in the air and descent angles 47.2. Over 45 degrees, that is working absolutely fine and lovely. And of course, if you're looking at post 45, you're looking at, or pre, you're looking at 5-iron at 44.9, but even a 4-iron at 42.4. Would I go 4-iron at 80 miles an hour? No, 42.4 is absolutely fine if you're in a 7-iron. But again, going back to that slightly longer shaft lengths, especially with a 4-iron, you are going to have a propensity to miss-hit that more than, say, your 7, unless you are very, very good with your long irons. And so you're looking at 42 degrees, going into 30 odd degree, etc. It's just one of those things that if you are a 80 miles an hour and you're using your 3-iron and 4-irons for like driving irons or hitting off the tee into a fairway, then a different discussion. But into a green, just be wary of your functionality. Go to 90 miles an hour, full on 90 miles an hour, and really anything works, even the 3-iron, but we'll have a look at that one in a sec. You look at 7-irons now going 165 yards of carry, going down to 160 yards for an all normal average miss. 38 yards in the air, 51.1 degrees descent angle, that is working as in like properly well. Even a 3-iron. And now 3-iron, that will be going 216 yards of carry, which is a long old way, but this golf club really wants to get the golf ball going. It's got a decent amount of spin to it. It's got a decent amount of launch. It's just working very, very well. Would I still use a 3-iron? I love my hybrids too much. I love the versatility of a 3 hybrid over a 3 iron, and the fact that it's got roll and bulge, it's got a curved face, so when I'm not having a very good day, it just gives me a little bit more wiggle room when you have a flat-faced iron that far away with that long a shaft. So if you like your wrong irons, and absolutely it will work. And of course with a 3 iron, if you want to get the ball back an inch or so in the stance, you can get that one pumping out there a little bit lower as well if you really want to. But generally speaking, I'm one for functionality more than anything else. So to conclude on the Tour Edge Exotics CB, let's do looks, feel, performance, and then forgiveness. Looks and feel, we'll do it together. Looks and feel first. I quite like the look of the CB. I like the fact that it looks very, very close to that of the MB, and it's within reason, it's exactly the same, apart from the top line is about 1 millimeter or so bigger. That is it. I like the fact that the sole width is fractionally bigger, but not a lot. It is perfectly blendable with the MB. Those two golf clubs, those two models could be seamlessly blended within reason because they are basically the same loft. All the specifications are basically exactly the same. It's just the dimensions of the top line and sole, which is very, very much slightly different, but very, very much, it's very, very close between them. Feel wise, feels lovely. Basically does feel just as everything as good as a Mizuno does. It's nice and soft. It's none of this weird technologies and their super springy faces and all the different kind of multi-materials that you get in certain brands. That does have an impact on how it feels. It looks and feels lovely. Performance and forgiveness, no different. We'll go back to the radar charts, etc. It's very much so, very close to working along the lines of that, of the averages of the player's cavity. It doesn't do anything specifically amazing and doesn't do anything specifically bad. The one thing it does do quite well is it has quite a fast face. It's quite quick for a player's cavity iron out of the middle, and when it comes to face spin rate, it just adds a little bit more than the average as well. Now that's not either a good thing or bad thing, it's just a case of different golfers will require different things, and if you're a golfer that needs a little bit more spin and wants a little bit more in the way of a hotter face, which still does not in any way affect its forgiveness, is just as good as the average player's cavity out there, then I say the Tour Edge Exotic CB does extremely well. Hope you liked the video. If you did, go and give it a big old thumbs up. Hit that like button. YouTube like, so do I. Down there is a subscribe button. It's free. It is great for a channel if you could subscribe, so thank you. Next that one is a bell icon. That's a notification bell. If you click that one, that'll let you know next time I upload another video. Hope you're well. See you again soon.